Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow With Us. My name is Evan Barton, and I'm your host who helps create conversations with the innovators and leaders of a growing tech center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Grow With Us podcast highlights the work of community leaders, tech entrepreneurs, nonprofit professionals, and talent development advocates in Tulsa. Grow With Us is a podcast of InTulsa. InTulsa's mission is to connect talented individuals and companies to stimulate economic growth in Tulsa and to create more prosperous communities across the region. Each episode, Grow With Us discusses the growth of opportunities, the growth of communities striving for change, or the tech and innovation that is changing the landscape of Tulsa. On this episode of Grow With Us, I'm speaking with Joseph Onema, the manager of Youth Voice and Power at My Brother's Keeper Tulsa. We discuss Joseph's experience as an alumni of Campus Tulsa and soon-to-be alumni of Tulsa Service Year, his work at My Brother's Keeper and ImpactTulsa, and his experience at Young, Smart, and Local 2024 in Philadelphia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grow With Us. I am delighted to welcome my guest today, Joseph Onema. How are you, Joseph?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's so good to have you on the show. I've been meaning to get you here, and you're here now.
I made it. I'm making my appearance.
Yes, stepping out.
Yes.
I am so excited. We're going to have a great conversation today. You are an amazing addition to the Tulsa community, and we're so glad to have you. And I'm really excited to share a little bit of your story with our audience today.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us your story in whatever way you're comfortable, Joseph.
Yeah. So my name's Joseph. I'm originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I was born and raised there, went to school in Norman, Oklahoma, attended OU. I studied public and nonprofit administration, minored in sociology a little bit, was really involved on campus. I loved leadership stuff. Nonprofits have always been like a thing that I've been obsessed with. And so makes sense that I landed in Tulsa where it is a nonprofit hub.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool organizations doing really cool things here. Yeah.
I love that. Well, okay. So Oklahoma City to Tulsa, you grew up in what part of Oklahoma City? We know it's a big metro there.
Yeah.
Which part specifically?
Yeah. So I'm from North OKC.
Okay.
So anybody who's watching who's from OKC, kind of like near the mall, Quill Springs Mall area. Yeah, pretty far north, close to kind of Edmond area.
Okay.
But yeah, I went to Harding Charter Prep out there.
Yes.
Sounds really fancy. It is not. It is a cute little charter school that's geared towards like college prep. But love that environment just because it was super diverse.
Yeah.
Saw lots of students from various backgrounds, and was able to really grow in that atmosphere with it being kind of a smaller city school. It just allowed me to create clubs and just connect with different people and like make change within my school.
I love that. Yeah. You strike me as that kid that
I was doing
that.
everything. Doing too much.
Still doing too much.
Still doing too much. It's carried into my adult life.
I love it. Well, many people do that. I've met so many Tulsans that I was like, you were that outgoing kid in high school,
Yeah.
weren't you?
Yeah.
But I want to touch a little bit on your story at OU.
Yeah.
So University of Oklahoma is in Norman, which is, south of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And we have lots of Tulsans that go from Tulsa to Norman to back to Tulsa.
Yeah.
Or their introduction to Tulsa is by being a student at OU. And there's some sort of like bus that takes people to Tulsa. We actually used to do those trips for OU students to be able to like see what's going on in Tulsa.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, this is an impromptu question, but reflecting on your OU experience, you definitely went there during an interesting time with the pandemic and all. I know that's not necessarily a traditional experience, but I also have some experiences in Norman with just some friends going, and my experience at Booker T was like, there was a large group of people that went to OU, that went to OSU, or like out of Tulsa. And so, the people that stayed in Oklahoma, you were like, hopeful that they would come back to Tulsa, but like many of them also spread their wings outside. So I'm just curious your experience.
No, I love that question. OU was interesting. I really loved my experience there. I think getting involved on campus was important. I think that something that I learned through my college journey and even throughout my adult life is the importance of community and finding your community in spaces. And so I think because I was able to do that through like President's Leadership class, the high school leadership conference, like those specific leadership spaces were full of people who were either the same like sexual orientation as me, different orientations as me, same racial background as me, religious ideologies, just these very diverse groups of individuals.
Yeah.
It allowed me to find my people within those spaces and make the college experience very enjoyable.
Awesome.
And OU is it's a predominantly white institution. And so it can be hard to find students that kind of identify similarly to you.
Yeah.
But because those spaces were there, it allowed me to branch out and to find my people, and truly friends that I've carried like through like going to OU, getting through like pandemic in your undergrad, being a freshman in the dorms when there's a virus like running rampant, like on top of all the other like just germs that exist in college. Like it was an interesting experience. But I do think that a lot of who I am now is due to like the people that I was able to find at OU. And even getting connected to Tulsa. I remember that I had a mentor in one of the programs that I was in who told me about like the GKFF, like summer impact program. And them telling me about that, like opened up Tulsa as like a potential for me. And now I've continuously always came back. Now lived here a year. And so it's like very much like due to that connection I made at OU, kind of helped like pave the way from where I am now.
Absolutely. It was like planting the seed that you ended up harvesting, which is awesome. So I think the OU perspective is something I want to try and hone in on, in particular with folks that are our age and this kind of Gen Z demographic. Gosh, it's like such a buzzword, and I hope it's. I don't know. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I'm not Gen Z."
Yeah, it's like be proud.
We get to embrace.
We're about to be aged out.
Exactly.
Gen Alpha is coming up, and they're scary.
They're so scary.
Terrifying.
They're rizzing us.
They're rizzing us.
But I think it's the college experience is one of those things that I definitely don't take for granted, but I think it is a perspective that kind of needs to be, I don't know, shared a little bit. We need to highlight some of the positive effects and attributes of a higher education experience. And many people do. I don't think there's a shortage necessarily of positive higher ed experiences. However, there is also an abundance of like, I think things at the national level that are making that experience seem less and less achievable. And that's sometimes hard to combat when it comes to like the larger space out there. So, but also the public and nonprofit admin and sociology minor. I also had a sociology minor. Whenever I saw, this is going to sound crazy, but I made the database for Campus Tulsa, and I eventually saw you in there whenever I first started. And I had looked at your name and your major so many times. I was like, wait, what is public and nonprofit admin? Like that feels like such a specific major that like my school didn't have or whatever. But like, I don't know. Could you describe that coursework a little bit?
Yeah. So it was a relatively new program at OU. It is within the Department of Political Science. And so I originally had started like on the political science track. I was like, I'm going to be a politician. I'm going to be in there helping make the laws, run all these different things. And then was in the program and felt like very disconnected to like the work and just kind of like the people that were kind of in that program. No shade to the people that are in the poli sci I know you, but they just weren't my people. And I learned that like policy is important, but I don't see myself like writing policies or being somebody who's trying to pass laws or being in that kind of space in political science. I definitely was like, or I was more aligned with like being in the work and like being on the ground and like being active in my community. And so that's when I like talked to some friends about like, what should I study? I went undecided for a little bit, just doing gen eds. And then saw that there was a public and nonprofit program that focuses more on like nonprofit structure. Still that policy element. I took a couple policy classes, educational policy, public policy, stuff like that. But really just like the foundations of like how to run a nonprofit, where do nonprofits see deficits when it comes to resources, how to make an equitable like work environment, like skills like that. I've always been kind of like an entrepreneur in a sense as well. And so I thought this was a good way of me already connecting with organizations that I would volunteer at. But taking that knowledge to hopefully like build out a nonprofit or work for a nonprofit and like do change that's impacting people that is more like on the ground with them versus like creating policies to affect like the masses and that kind of trickle down. But
okay, that's really cool. And I love that I think it makes sense. There's like that combination of like entrepreneur, like business side with this like policy that affects these organizations from existing and enacting the work that they choose to enact. So That's really cool.
It was a cool program.
I was always like, what is that?
It was also I'll speak to like my experience of like, it was a very easy program. Like it wasn't super duper rigorous.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to be super involved in school and in the community. And so like,
that was a part of the studies in some ways.
Which I loved. Like, I feel like, yes, it's good you'll learn stuff in the classroom, but a lot of times you learn through like activation and just being out in the community and doing stuff.
Absolutely.
And I feel like sometimes school's structured in a way that you can't really do that because you're overwhelmed with coursework and doing all this busy stuff that aren't as applicable skills to when you get out there in the workforce.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the skills that I learned throughout my undergrad were things that I volunteered at or nonprofits that I had the opportunity to intern or work at throughout the year. And of course, some of that classroom stuff translated over, but the opportunity to be invested outside of the classroom was like chef's kiss.
Awesome.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Well, I kind of want to zoom in on your experience in Tulsa a little bit. What has been your relationship with Tulsa and how has it changed over time? Without stealing a little bit of your story from you, you first kind of like came to Tulsa through an internship program and then the fellowship with Tulsa Service Year. But I'd love for you to kind of describe how Tulsa has been either changing and has changed for you.
Yeah, Tulsa is so crazy. Like it's so interesting. I honestly, like growing up, I was only in Oklahoma City. I didn't know Tulsa even existed. I thought Oklahoma had one city.
We need to work on that.
I thought we had one city. I knew about the Tulsa Race Massacre, and I was fortunate enough to have a teacher that like taught us that. And so that was the only kind of light I knew about Tulsa.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I didn't know it was like a city that was growing and changing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do some math. When I was a junior, I think the summer before my junior year was the first time that I came to Tulsa.
Okay.
So I was like probably 19 or 20 years old. And that was like my first introduction of like the nonprofit ecosystem, really being involved in a space that was so nonprofit heavy.
Yeah.
I was a GKFF summer impact intern. And so I got to meet a lot of interns that were placed at different nonprofits. At the time I was placed at 36 Degrees North, which is now Gradient.
Mm-hmm.
And a funny thing is that while I was there for that summer, we were talking about the idea of Gradient. The name hadn't been created yet.
Yeah.
But I was seeing that change within our organization and like what the structure of like staff would look like, what the ideas of this like mega space will be. And so that was really cool. And
that is really cool.
Yeah.
And especially now that it's like come to fruition.
Now it's here. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we were talking about this when I was like 12.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. But yeah, so that was like my first kind of tap into Tulsa. And I was like, oh, Tulsa's kind of cool. Like maybe I'll come back. Went back to school, came back the summer before my senior year, interned at the time Holberton School.
I know it's hitting on this thing of like these things are changing within a year.
Literally within a year. And I'm like, this is weird. Like this is a city of I could say maybe rapid growth. Like things a lot can happen in a year.
Absolutely.
But yeah, at the time, Holberton, I was a marketing intern just because I wanted to diversify my palette. At 36, I was more of like a programming intern. At Holberton, I was a marketing intern. Loved my experience there, getting to see a different staff and the dynamic of how the organization was working, but they were also going through the period of like changing the Atlas. And so now they kind of have like their new logo and their similar mission, but just like different way of reaching different communities, which was also really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then that summer I was like, I think I've seen all of Tulsa. Like I've been here 2 summers, like I'm done. Like I'm going to try to look at different opportunities and see.
Dallas, here I come.
Dallas, here I come. I was actually in Chicago. I was like, I'm going up to Chicago. Like I am moving, like I am gone. Then I saw Tulsa Service Year and I was like, wait a second, like this seems kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I've only been in Tulsa for like a couple of months at a time and was able to see change within myself within 3 months. What would it be like being in Tulsa for a year?
Yeah.
Doing impactful work and like being able to serve on a nonprofit that I might not know a whole lot about, but I'm thinking they're probably going to go through change while I'm there. Because that seems to be a repeating thing when I'm at an organization.
It's a theme, yeah.
It's a theme, yeah. So then I came back again to do TSY, and then that's also just been like again seeing growth through my like current organization at ImpactTulsa and my brother's Keeper Tulsa, and the initiatives that we're pushing forward, and my ability to really work on projects and have like kind of a sense of ownership over the work that I do, which I feel like is a testament to like my supervisor and like our team of like how we're trusting of our workers to do really good work and trusting of me to push our initiatives forward.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like instead of me seeing, of course I saw change through my organization this year, but it was definitely more of a change through myself professionally of like, wow, like I'm grown. Like I'm doing good things. I'm doing big stuff. And so, yeah.
And you're a year out of college. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I think that's something I'll kind of touch on it a little bit again later when you talk about the structure of TSY, but like, I think it's good to hear that feedback just from someone that works for the org to know that like you feel like your work has been impactful. Like that's the point.
yeah. No, I feel like Tulsa is a great, and I'm sure I'll bring this up again, but it's a great city to take a breath and also like notice change. Cause I feel like I could have went to Chicago. I could have been somewhere that was a bit more rapid in growth. And maybe that is still on my horizon in the future. But as a 22-year-old, now I'm 23. At the time, a 22-year-old, like to be able to become, in a sense, notable in the community and like helping, like not only notable in the nonprofit space, but just like with people I see at the grocery store, of like, oh my gosh, like your son's in my program and he loves it so much. And like being able to be on the news and being like, just becoming this person who is doing good change in the city, and like I can feel it and see it, and I hear about it not just from my coworkers but from like just community members. It's really cool. But yeah,
I love that. And I not to dunk on Chicago or any other city, but like I think that is way harder for a 22 or 23-year-old to feel and see that change. So that has been my experience here as well. It's why I'm still here. I have a podcast on how amazing Tulsa
doing
is.
Big things. Involved in so many spaces.
But it's because of that, like the feeling that my impact is like making waves, you know, and I love sharing and creating community around that feeling with other people like you. So that's awesome. I'm glad that Tulsa has been that space for you to actualize and realize that you're potential in the professional space in some ways. I don't know if you necessarily see it like that, but it does feel like you've really stepped into some of the things that you were studying from, in nonprofit and public administration into this, like, this is how this work is put into play, like, period. From funding structures to the change that an organization can go through in a short time. I love the applicability of your studies to your professional life. That's really cool.
And I feel like something I've noticed, just because a nonprofit degree is pretty new, like not a lot of institutions like have that, is having that knowledge kind of does set me apart sometimes from my coworkers or my peers. I'm just like, okay, I have some background of like, this is why this is the way this is. And that can influence my decision making and like pivoting of like, okay, this is a good organizational practice. This is not maybe the best thing that we should be doing at this period, and being able to voice that in discussions. But yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Well, let's kind of get into the meat of our conversation. We've definitely been talking a lot about some of these things we're about to turn into, but you're specifically an alumni of the two programs that I hold near and dear to my heart, Campus Tulsa, and soon to be an alumni of Tulsa Service Year. Do you mind kind of explaining and sharing what your experiences with those programs have been like?
Yeah. Specifically with Campus Tulsa, that was like my introduction to Tulsa. And so I think that yes, I was a GKFF summer impact intern, and that provided me like income. That was really it. And like a network to connect with. And like programming in terms of like my placement at my nonprofit, and then providing me professional development outside of that with sessions, which kind of created community, but Campus Tulsa really provided that community element that I was looking for in terms of like fun events to go to with coworkers, opportunities to like forge new friendships. At my nonprofit, I was the only like college aged person. And so this allowed me to connect with other people who were the similar age to me, older, younger, or in different like areas of life. A key thing was housing. Like I was living in freshman housing before, moved to like off-campus housing, and then the idea of like I gotta find somewhere to live in Tulsa for 3 months. Like, what does that even look like?
Do they even do that?
Do they even do that? Like, what is a lease? But Campus Tulsa alleviated that like huge stressor of like I have somewhere to go and sleep and recharge. That's accessible to downtown, literally a straight shot to where most of our placements were. And so that was definitely a huge element, was that like the housing component, and making it as seamless as possible, and like it was not difficult to apply for housing and like communicate about it.
It's even gotten better.
I'm jealous because no shade, but the dorms that we were in before, they were fine. They were free.
Yes.
So I'm gonna complain. But the dorms that y'all have them in now, cute.
No,
they're so nice.
It's the nicest dorm on TU's campus. So
Yeah.
we're very lucky.
So if you haven't applied for housing, I don't know if it's closed. You should do
today.
it today. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. But yeah, so that was definitely the biggest thing. Yeah, but just the sense of community. I remember I got to take like a boxing class while I was down here.
We love that
like,
picture of you.
I look so strong. I need to get back in my boxing era because that was the best time ever.
Yeah, at the engine room.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was so cool. Got to go to like my first like happy hours and stuff like that. And even though I was like not old enough to drink, there was mocktails. So I still got to like have the experience of like what does it mean to go to a networking event? Because that is a prominent thing when you become involved in the nonprofit space. There's so many networking events. So building those skills early on was, I realized the impact of getting that opportunity through Campus Tulsa. But yeah, I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Tulsa Service Year, similar to Campus Tulsa, also provides that sense of community. I loved like my cohort this year and like the different personalities and dynamics that were present within it. I feel like I've been able to gain really cool friends, and I'm super excited to see like what everybody does like post fellowship and where they end up, whether they're in Tulsa, out of Tulsa, grad school, switching sectors, like whatever that may be. Like they're all going to be really successful, and I truly believe that like no one's gonna like fall off the face of the earth. Like we're all gonna be famous.
Y'all all
like,
have bright futures.
Yeah. I'm really excited, and so I love that Tulsa Service Year was able to provide that as an avenue. The staff in both programs, I'm kind of teetering back and forth, but staff in both programs offer that kind of essence of support. I don't think I even realized like as a Campus Tulsa intern, how like much thought and like work goes into making sure that there's things for us to do over the summer to where we can connect. And if we ever had a concern, we could elevate that with staff and find somebody to connect with if we were struggling with whatever. And the same thing happens within Tulsa Service Year. Our two like main staff members that have been with us throughout the year, Tim and Becky, mom and dad for real. Love y'all. We meet with like Tim, who's our experience manager, at least once a month. I say at least because I try to grab time with him as much as I can. But just to provide that support and see how we're doing in Tulsa and how we're adjusting. And if we feel like we're growing at our organization or if we're wanting to make a pivot, like just being that those ears to listen to. And then Becky, of course, offering her support through like leading a lot of our operational stuff and making sure we have the resources and the spaces that we need to be successful, but also available for a coffee chat and like it's super accessible to making sure that you are on the path that you want to be, or at least knowledgeable of where you are, of just like helping you realize that you're going in the right direction. And so but Tulsa Service Year's been amazing. It's a smaller cohort, so this year we had, I believe, 16 of us that were placed at various nonprofits in Tulsa, all doing impact in our community, but servicing different parts of the community in different ways. But again, a great space that helped build community, which is, I feel like, pivotal when you're moving to a new city and trying to figure out more about who you are and see what different dynamics and friendships mean to you. But yeah,
absolutely. I love that. I think the experience and the testimonials of people that have gone through our programs are like really what make me the most connected to the work, because I realize the impact that it has. And it makes me super excited to keep doing it, which is great to hear. So you just filled my cup a little bit. I appreciate it. You know, that summer calendar is for a reason.
It's for a reason. And it's like, it's good to just know that it's there. Like, even if I was very introverted when I came to Tulsa first, like I did a few things my first year here. But when I came back my second summer, again, plugged into Campus Tulsa because I knew there was people there that cared that there was things for me to do. I did so much more. And it was nice that I had that kind of like thought of like, I'm kind of scared my first year and now I'm coming back. I know Tulsa. I want to do all the fun stuff. And so,
And absolutely. I mean, we want to encourage you to explore on your own, but we don't think that you should have to, figure everything out by yourself. Like we are a supporting organization for that in particular. I think that's evident in kind of the staff support of like what we do, our social media. We want you to be able to navigate Tulsa with some resources. If you're here for 3 months, if you're here for a year, there's some support there. But I'm really excited for you to share, and this in particular, I'm excited to hear about because I know about your work and I'm familiar with your placement site, but I really am excited for you to get the opportunity to share what you've been doing for a year at My Brother's Keeper. So this is, for some audience context here, Tulsa Service Year is a 1-year fellowship and nonprofit that Joseph has participated in, and we, as an organization, place fellows at an employer partners organization where they have that employee for a year. And that is essentially, I don't like to frame it as like a gift employee, but like, it kind of is a gift employee for a year to like hopefully do like meaningful and impactful work for that organization, no matter the size. We have we have nonprofit partners that are a team of 3 or 4, like Women Empowering Nations, and then we have organizations that are very large, and I think ImpactTulsa is way larger outside of My Brother's Keeper, but inclusive of My Brother's Keeper. It's like you and Berthadi.
The 3 of us, we got 3.
There's 3 of you. And so I mean, in particular, you've been placed at My Brother's Keeper and ImpactTulsa, and so I'm excited for you to share what you've been doing in the community, and I know it's work that you're really happy to do. So
I was so literally being placed at ImpactTulsa was perfect. I think it correlated a lot to the work that I've done previously. It deals with like economic inequalities that are happening in Oklahoma and in Tulsa. It's very youth focused. It's data driven. So all components of things that I've had experience with doing throughout work in different organizations. And so it was like the perfect like mesh. And so ImpactTulsa is like our like parent organization, focusing on Tulsa as a whole. And then My Brother's Keeper Tulsa focuses on boys and young men of color and making sure that they have the opportunities and the resources to be successful in the community. And so I had the opportunity to be like a program manager within MBK. My full title is like Youth Voice and Power Manager / Fellow. And first, when I had received that title, I was like, oh, power and like voice, like period. Like I'm gonna get these kids to be powerful and like
use
their voice. I was like, this is gonna be so much fun. And it's very much been that, plus a lot of like curriculum development for our students, a lot of event planning, just a lot of like culture cultivation and making sure that we are truly servicing our boys and young men of color and having programs to put them on the path of success. But a lot of I specifically oversee our Youth All-Stars Leadership Council. And so that is a leadership council made up of high school aged young men, ages like 14 to 18. The only restriction was that they resided within Tulsa County, just because we meet every week and we provide transportation for our students. And so we just want to make sure that our drivers aren't having to drive like super duper far out. But as long as they're 14 to 18, and identify as a boy or young man of color, they're welcomed in the program.
Awesome.
This year, we've done really good at diversifying our cohort. And so we have students of Latin descent, students of Native descent, and then students, of course, of Black and African American descent. And so again, creating a space where boys who might have similar experiences, might not have similar experiences, but can come together and develop as leaders. And again, put them on that success on that track to be successful in the community.
That's amazing. Yeah, whenever I first heard about even what MBK was, it was through my colleague Sergio Smith, who was a former employee there. And I was like, My Brother's Keeper, like, what is that? So I Googled it and I was like, the Obama Foundation. I was like, oh, wait, this is like really not like a satellite program, but it's like a I don't know, like a franchise of the program that is here in Tulsa. And realizing and recognizing that was like, okay, Tulsa is a really great place for this type of work to be happening. And then to kind of like dive into some of the milestones, which I'm going to read just so I don't butcher them. Milestone 1 is getting a healthy start and entering school ready to learn. And then milestone 3, which I know a lot of your curriculum is kind of focused on, impacting the outcomes of that. But graduating high school ready for a college and career. And I think that milestone in particular is one that, our work at Campus Tulsa in some ways like directly connects to, because we are focused on college and career, that bridge between the two. And so my program director, Brooke Randalls, has been pretty involved in some MBK work, which is super exciting.
We love Brooke.
Yes. And the thing that I think is really the most notable or something I find really, really interesting about the program in particular is just like I think it mentions here on the page, but just the data that is shown to in terms of like the disparities between boys and young men of color versus like their white peers. And so like if you look at the data, the numbers are staggering. The outcomes are drastically different. And so this type of intervention is like so extremely necessary. And it takes people like you. It takes people like the peers in the community that you facilitate to help lift each other up. And I really love that about the organization.
It's doing amazing work. And I've loved to see the impact that I've been able to make in a year. I think, again, that might relate to like Tulsa as an environment, but also just like the dynamic of the organization and our strong team of 3 of being able to service these students and provide them with opportunities, and not only convene like partners from different nonprofits, but also convene students and see like where their input can be implemented within the discussions that we're having. And so I've loved it. It's been super duper cool. I'm super excited to see how this program will continue to be built out. How more of our youth will be like seen in Tulsa and become the Tulsa celebrities that they should. Is my dream for all of them. And so,
I love that. That's super awesome. And I see you post, we're Instagram mutuals. So I see you post sometimes about work. The other day you posted a selfie at Booker T. And I was like, that's crazy.
I'm always in all the schools. Always in all the schools.
That's awesome. And honestly, I mean, thank you for this work. This is sometimes thankless work, but like, the fact that you are in a lot of ways, like going to schools like mine, and then also schools like McLean High School and Webster and Central, these high schools that, when we talk about education in Tulsa, we talk about these huge disparities between Booker T and the other schools that I listed. It just shows that like the work and the impact can be reached at all of those places. And so it's really cool to see that reach.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So another thing that I want to touch on pretty quickly here is just like, you had the chance to come with us to Young, Smart, and Local last fall in Philadelphia, which was super fun. It's a national conference that Campus Tulsa is excited to host here in Tulsa this year. And I mean, this is low key a little bit of promo for it, but I want you to share, the experience of being on a panel, which you got to do. So, in essence, this is participating in a national conference and speaking at a national conference about your experience. And in particular, that panel was on attracting and recruiting and retaining young talent in your city. And so I'm happy to turn it over to you. Kind of tell me a little bit about that experience.
Not to sound cheesy, but truly life-changing experience. Cool. Like it completely redefined, maybe not redefined, but reinstilled a sense of confidence in myself of like, I can do really cool things and I'm doing really cool work. And I've just started. I've just started my professional career. Having an opportunity to do this, being kind of like scouted by Campus Tulsa to do this, like just like affirmed me so much of like, wow, like people not only notice the work that I'm doing and see my passion behind it, but I just spoke on a national panel. Like that is so cool. Put
it on your resume.
I'm putting it on my resume. It was on my LinkedIn. I posted like 5 times. My LinkedIn, Instagram, everything. Snapchat saw it. Like it was on all the platforms. But really, it was amazing. The conference was really cool. It focused on talent retention and making sure that evaluating how cities can be like accommodating for young professionals and what attracts young professionals to cities. It was really cool being like the youngest person on the panel as well. That was like freshly out of college, talking about kind of what pulled me to Tulsa, with it being a city that when I felt like I could make impact and I could see my work, then I have to like climb a corporate ladder or be an ED at an organization to become notable in the community. So that was really cool getting to share my experience there. But yeah, it was really cool getting to meet like the other panelists, getting to network with other young professionals, seeing what different strategies that like Philly had within Campus Philly, and seeing how they were like celebrating 20 years,
20 years,
which is crazy. Just seeing like the growth that they had over that time, seeing where Tulsa was in comparison, and just thinking, wow, okay, Tulsa's about to eat this up. It's about to be so cool.
We're
like 4 or 5. How many years are we?
We've been doing Campus Tulsa for 5 years.
For 5 years.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So being where we are and the impact that we're making, like when we get to that 20, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah. It was funny when we were at the like celebration party, one of the board members for Campus Philly came up and I introduced myself to them, networking.
As you should.
As I should. And I was like, yeah, I work for Campus Tulsa. And I was like, yeah, this is 20 years. This is crazy. And she told me, she was like, it won't take you guys 20. And I was like, I love that energy.
Yeah. And I feel like that was another thing about going to that conference. Tulsa celebrities.
Yeah.
Like everybody
People knew us.
People knew us. I like felt like I was with like the Tulsa entourage. Like I was like, this is so cool. Like I feel so like popular.
When we were in Greensboro, we would get like shouted out on the streets by the other conference attendees. They're like, what's up, Tulsa?
And it was cool, like, because not being like, I'm born and raised in Oklahoma, but not being from Tulsa, like I felt that sense of Tulsa pride. And I was like, oh wait, this is a really cool city. I'm helping impact it, and I can be proud of like the work that I've done. And the team that I'm with, I was with a whole bunch of like dreamers and doers, like people who are very active in Tulsa, being recognized for their hard work. And so it was amazing. I'm super excited for it to be here. I feel like people get to it's never been in Tulsa.
It hasn't been in Tulsa.
So that'll be really cool, really interesting.
Get to represent.
But yeah, it was an amazing experience. I had some free time to like explore the city. Fun fact about myself, this was like the first year that I've ever flown.
Yeah, I was like, this is like your second plane.
This was my second plane. My first flight was actually with my placement. We went to a conference in Seattle. And so that was like a journey. Tim really helped me through some first time flyer anxiety because I was scared. But conquering that fear opened up the door of like this opportunity, being a little bit less scared about it. Having to worry less about like my first flight, more of like, okay, I'm speaking on a panel in front of professionals. Like
get to be the talent.
I get to be the talent, so let me chill. But yeah, and so like, I don't know, like I've been very fortunate. I know that a lot of fellows have had similar experiences to me in terms of opportunities like that. And so I try to stay humble and recognize my blessings when it does come to things like that. But again, like truly life-changing experiences and a new sense of confidence has been unlocked.
I love that. I love to hear that. And yeah, I think staying humble is very important. You've already done that work. I don't need to tell you. So that's really good to hear. And I'm glad that it was impactful for you because it's something we're obviously really excited to host this year. Tickets are on sale now at youngsmartandlocal.com. We hope to see, other regions that are working on their talent attraction and retention programs really come out and see what we've been doing in Tulsa, while also networking with other regions. So I'm excited to bring that to Tulsa in October of 2025. Dang, that's 5 months.
Literally, it'll be here before we know it.
It'll be here soon. All right, Joseph, we're going to wrap up here with my final question for you. What are you looking forward to in the next couple of months? What's on your radar? Yeah,
so nothing specifically yet. I'm still definitely doing some figuring out in terms of like what I want my career to look like going forward. Super excited that I've entered this period again of kind of transition. I like moving from like college to this was a big change for me and shift in terms of just like working somewhere that was hybrid and like working full time versus like having like homework and being around all my like friends that I grew up with and like all of that stuff. And so I feel like I'm entering another kind of like adult transition of like, okay, we're graduating in a sense out of this fellowship instead of college. What does that mean for myself? And where do I see myself in the next couple of months? And trying to like go through that process of like, okay, these are the things that are making me happy. These are the responsibilities that I have. How can I find something that fits that lifestyle and that fits those choices that I'm trying to fill? But yeah, a lot of figuring out.
Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say I wanna touch on that in some ways because like I think that I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability about like, I don't necessarily have it all figured out.
I know. And I feel like sometimes hard to admit that. It's hard. It's hard to admit, but also being somebody who I feel like I post on like LinkedIn and social media that like I'm doing this big thing, it can come off as like he's got it figured out. He knows what he's doing. No.
Well, exactly. Social media is that.
It catches those glimpses, which is cool.
It can be a highlight reel.
Yeah, exactly. But not in actuality what it is. And a lot of this period is a lot of growth and like reflection of like, okay, these are the areas that I love about my job. These are the areas that I wish that I had more opportunity to do.
Yeah.
These are the things about Tulsa I love when it comes to my social life. And then these are the areas that like not hitting in Tulsa. Like, what do I do? And so through that, even though it can be kind of difficult, like figuring out like, okay, what's the best move going forward? It's still like, okay, I'm growing. Like it's growing pains right now. Like it'll come out looking really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've gone through that. I try and go through that process for myself every year. Like, am I good? I like what's going on right now. Because it's important. Sometimes you years have gone by. I didn't think I was going to be in Tulsa for 5 years after I graduated college, and now it's already it's here, baby. I've been doing that, and so I think it's important for me to say confidently now that it's been 5 years, I've checked in with myself every year, and I've chosen it every single time.
Yeah,
and that was for illustrative purposes, the hand gestures. But yeah, I think it's important for everyone to do that. And I encourage anyone listening, especially a young professional that's trying to figure out what their next step is. And if that next step is going to be for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, like, even along those annual cycles, you should be checking in with yourself that everything is on the path that you want it to be on, if that makes sense. Just checking in with yourself. And I think that's also another thing that maybe sets us apart as like this generation of Gen Z or whatever, is that we're thinking about our professional journeys in like way shorter time frames.
Oh yeah.
Like
for sure.
We talk about, millennials and are kind of the middle generation of this, but like Gen X is thinking about a career.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about jobs.
Yeah.
Because things
change.
Maybe like my organization changes names every 2 years or whatever. That is like just a reality.
Yeah.
And things our world is fast. The job market is tough to navigate, and being on the job market versus being off the job market is like a stark difference.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's important for folks that are early on in their career to be open to not having, 5 years planned out, 10 years planned out.
Yeah.
How do you though, like find comfort and growth within those transition periods? I think you shared a lot of really good insights on how that can happen. And I would encourage everyone else to look into that.
Yeah. Just to add on to, because that just reminded me of something that Tim like sprinkled in one of our one-on-ones.
Our therapist.
Our therapist for real. Our therapist on staff was that like realizing the difference between being lost and like exploring. Yeah. And like, I feel like when I would meet with him, I would be like, Tim, I'm so lost. I don't know what's going on. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And he'd do a really good job of reminding myself of like, wait, but you do. Like, you just explained this, and this, and that tells me what you're doing and kind of the direction that you're going. And he was like, I feel like a better way to frame that is that you're exploring. Like you have the tools and the resources that you need to get somewhere. Like you have a map, you have your compass, you have other tools. Try not to say phone or anything, but like tools that are getting you somewhere. Yeah. And you have an idea of where you want to go, who you want to be, and all of that stuff. And so, yes, there are times when you will feel lost and like truly the world will be flipping all types of ways, but being easier on yourself of like, okay, I'm exploring right now. Things are not as falling apart as I think that they are. Let me check my bag and see what resources I have in there to assess where I am and make pivots like as that is happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. We love giving advice. This is now an advice podcast.
Now an advice podcast.
No, but I mean, I think you and I both have experiences and perspectives that are very applicable to other folks out there. So that's why we're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph, we did it. We podcasted. Yeah. It's super exciting and so glad to have you on. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you would like to plug or share with our audience?
I don't know. Like, take the risk. Like, I feel like something that has been echoed throughout like Tulsa Service Year, throughout like professional development sessions, talking with friends and peers, is that like sometimes it's okay to lean into uncertainty. Always make sure that you're safe. Like, don't do anything that will cause any harm to yourself. But you grow in discomfort. And I feel like that's something that we've talked about multiple times. Being uncomfortable is not necessarily always bad. It just means that you're having to adjust and pivot and adapt to a new environment that ultimately can make you stronger. But yeah, take the jump. If you're like trying to figure out what's the next best move, it might not be super clear. But it's better to like see it than regret it later. Like, I never even tried to do that as an opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love it. That's awesome. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of Grow With Us. Thank you for listening to this episode of Grow With Us. Grow With Us is supported by ImpactTulsa initiatives. If you are interested in learning more about ImpactTulsa services for job placement and workforce development, please visit intulsa.com. From there, you can join our talent network where you will get access to a newsletter, and our talent team will make sure we put the right opportunities on your radar. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to be notified when more episodes of Grow With Us are released. Let us know what you think about how we're doing by rating and reviewing. It really helps. Grow With Us is edited and engineered by Pod for Good Media and Jesse Ulrich, and it is hosted by me, Evan Barton. This has been Grow With Us.